Let's move on. So every year we focus on Women's Month and the issues that 50% of the population faces. And one question always remains the same. Is government actually doing enough to support our women? Well, for more on this, we are joined by the Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Professor eNCA. Deputy Minister, thank you so much for speaking to us on this Women's Day. As we honour South Africa's past and its present as well, we obviously need to take stock that a lot of work needs to be done to empower women in South Africa. Where is it exactly that we're lacking? And I'm going to put some of the responsibility on your hands at this point, that we very rarely hear from the Department of Women. Why is the department seemingly so silent until we get around to August?
Thank you very much for having us and Lady. The department has been hard at work. Of course, because of COVID, most of the work that we're doing through webinars, engaging different women's groups, professionals, rural women, young women, women in the economy, and women who are, survivors of gender-based violence and femicide. And so basically, for us, the Women's Month, we take it as a culmination of the campaign and agitation. But this kind of work, we are grateful for the partnerships that we've seen emerging with the private sector and with civil society organizations throughout the year, whereby women are agitating and not accepting the gains that have been made as the limit. Remember, we all live in a patriarchal society, which means we should never lower our guards. We should all the time ask critical questions in our spaces about how will this benefit women. For instance, in government, if you present a big economic project, before you finish, everybody will be asking how many women stand to benefits, how many young people, how many persons with disabilities. Because as long as we don't raise questions about the inclusion of vulnerable groups, we are not gonna see the changes we desire.
Yeah, and we're seeing some of those inequalities really not just in public sector, but in the private sector as well, right? Because of all the businesses that are listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, only 6% of them, only 6% have women CEOs. What do we do about that?
We have been engaging women who have made it. I mean, I just want to talk to you about an interesting program which has been initiated by, I think, Yolanda Tuba. She is the vice president at MTN. But it's interesting how she has, with her colleagues, have come up with a mentorship program. She's high up there. I mean, typical of Charlotte Maxake's words, that if you rise, make sure you rise with another woman. Her mentorship program is brilliant. And she has even opened it to everybody to say, come up on a mentorship program. You can register with us because there were 20,000 women at the time who marched to the Union Building during the most difficult years. For us, we have access to social media. We will then include you in our mentorship program. And I think that is really brilliant because there are women who will always excel. But what is important, especially in the private sector, is to make sure that they come up with similar initiatives to show that this is not about me, but it's about all of us as a collective, creating that critical mass, a buffet, to make sure that each and every woman who walks into the organization feels at home, feels represented, and doesn't get alienated immediately by a lack of women representation.
Yeah, seeing them there also helps. Unfortunately, when we get around to August, we really can't discuss women's challenges without talking about gender-based violence in South Africa. I mean, we're essentially the rape capital of the world. Are you confident in how we're dealing with this as a country?
Well, you know, we need to all give the National Strategic Plan policy framework a chance, especially as it gets funded and we have to implement it through the district development model, which takes it closer to communities, whereby we can learn with all the factors that are fueling this problem of gender-based violence. So I think also the review of legislation so that there are no contradictions whereby perpetrators can go scot-free, mainly because they use the piece of legislation which has not been amended. So I think there has been good progress, but our appeal to the sector, really the cluster of ministers who are seized with this responsibility, is to really look at forensics. Yeah. Because as long as we don't have laboratories whereby we can have concrete evidence to assist our courts, we might delay cases, which of course is a win for perpetrators and is further victimization for victims and survivors. So there are things that we have to do. And, you know, women have been calling even for special courts. The sexual offences courts are very, very important in this matter, because the more we have them, the better it is, in the sense that, especially in rural areas, women cannot afford to work for years, to wait for years before their cases go through.
Yeah, unfortunately, there really is so much work to be done in that space. But we do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. That there, Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize, Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities.